So before understanding CyberArk or any PAM solution, we should be aware about what are the types of privileged accounts. Okay, so accounts with elevated permissions and access to sensitive informations are termed as the privileged accounts. So let's say, for an example, if I log into a server, for an example, I have this AD server or a domain controller, I should say. I just log in here. Let me make it full screen here. Now you can see here, there are a lot of groups. If I go here, let me get rid of it. There are a lot of groups, and then we have the domain admin group. Now, if you see the description of this particular group here, designated administrator of the domain, that means whichever the users which are added into this, they would have the admin level privileges. Okay, that means the accounts which are added into it, or the users which are added into this group, would have the admin privileges and can be termed as the privileged account, because they would be able to do the admin level activity. So whenever you do some sort of elevated task, let's say if you are rebooting a system, you are running some installers, you are running some patches on a server, you're doing some sort of configuration changes, you are adding some member in a system, so that is termed as privileged activities, because you are doing some sort of elevated task. So let's say if I'm a member of Intel team, I need to add 10 users in AD. I would be doing that as a part of my daily BAU. But still, if I'm not a member of AD, I'm a kind of hacker or an intruder to an organization. What I'll do, instead of doing some sort of legitimate activity, what I would be doing, I would be running some ransomware. I would be doing some sort of information stealing. Like I could steal the customer data, users data, or maybe running some sort of malware, maybe turning down the entire system itself. So you might have heard about DDoS attack, denial of service attack. So what they does, they basically get into your network, understand your network, and eventually elevate their permissions. Then once they're able to elevate their permissions, they will basically disrupt the business. So ultimately, you might have heard that there is the Google was down for some time, the Facebook was down for some time, the LinkedIn page was down for some time. What happens? This is because of the denial of service attacks. Sometimes intruders or hackers get hold of the infrastructure and they try to disrupt the service to impact the companies. So this is a very known events that we frequently see in day-to-day life, and to safeguard this thing, we would see that how exactly we can safeguard all sort of things. So now privileged accounts are segregated in three parts. First of all, elevated personal. Elevated personal is nothing but, let's say if I have a login ID, let me just open up a notepad. Guys, feel free to stop me in case if you are unable to understand anything. Feel free to stop me at any moment of time. Let's say if I'm an employee of a company XYZ, okay, I have a login ID that they have given to me to log into my system. Let's say the login ID is Ajay. Ajay is my domain ID that I use to log in on my workstation. Okay, I just used to log in on my workstation, see my emails, send emails, maybe doing some application work as well. Like I'm opening up some Word document, Excel documents, PPTs, and all. So this is the login ID to log into my workstation. Now also I am a Wintel admin. So myself is a Wintel admin. Okay, so I would be doing some sort of elevated work, like my work could be like patching maintenance of servers, like could be some housekeeping that I might be doing. If there is like C drive is full, D drive is full, or maybe some process are killing the memory, there could be like n number of things which I might be doing. Uninstalling the softwares as well, which are no more being used, or reinstalling some software, updating some patches, rebooting the server, or maybe doing the DR trail as well, wherein we used to fail over to the DR side. So these kind could be part and parcel of my day-to-day work. So my login ID, Ajay, will not have all sort of privileges to log in on different servers. Let's say if I used to log in on 100 servers on a daily basis. Okay, so for that I have an elevated personal ID. So it could be Ajay_ADM. Okay, with this Ajay_ADM, I would be able to authenticate or log into this 100 servers. Okay, I have a password known to me, and I can basically log into hundreds of server. I can do this daily activity done, and as a part of this elevated access, I am able to do my daily BAU work. So this is termed as elevated personal, wherein you have personal accounts with elevated personal. Okay, that means elevated permissions. That means the password is only known to you. Okay, and it is used for privileged operations, or maybe the elevated operations are one and the same thing, wherein you're doing some sort of elevated stuff in your organization. So it could be not just Wintel, it could be Unix as well. You might have seen that in the Unix also there is a dedicated team for Unix. There is dedicated teams from networks. There is a dedicated team for firewall. There is a dedicated team for DB as well. So we have Unix administrator, network administrator, firewall administrator, database administrator. So there are a lot of administrators which perform their day-to-day work. And accordingly, they would require the elevated access. So in Unix, they might require a root access. In networks, they might require the Cisco enable access. In firewall, they might require some sort of access as well, which is making the configuration changes on the firewall. In database, they might require SA access to do some activity. So in that case, they would eventually be requiring the elevated access. Okay, so this particular user ID would be given to them to perform the day-to-day operations. Then there is a shared accounts. Shared account is something which is the password of this shared account is known to many. Let's say if I have a team of 10 people in my organization. Okay, I'm a member of Wintel team, and I have a team of 10 people. Now there is an account called Wintel_ADM. So this is an account called Wintel_ADM, and there is a password for that. Quati, very generic password, I would say, Quati@123. Now what happens? Like you might have seen that these people, like the Wintel or the Unix team or the networks team or the database team, they used to work 24/7. Okay, so it's not possible for a single person to look after the entire activities. Rather, they work in shift. So let's say there is a patching ongoing. Okay, there are like thousands of server in which the patching needs to be done. So let's say the morning shift does first phase of the servers, the evening shift does the second phase of the servers, the night shift does the last phase of the server. So in order to do so, they might require some credentials to run some patches, maybe some installers, maybe some other files they might need to install on the different servers. So they require some sort of elevated access. Now in some organization, instead of granting the elevated personal, I mean, rather than creating a personal ID for each and every member, they go with the shared model. Shared model is something wherein the ID is common to all. Okay, there is a shared account, like Wintel_ADM is a shared account, and the password is also known to all. Okay, so if there are 10 people in the Wintel team, the password Quati@123 would be known to all of these 10 people. Okay, so the problem with this is, like, if I have 10 people, I would not be able to identify that who has done what. Let's say there is a patching scheduled on on Monday. Okay, now instead of running the patches, somebody does some other thing. Okay, he might have installed some third-party tools. Maybe he has done some sort of misconfigurations on the servers, but I will not be able to identify that who has done what, because he has logged in onto the server with this Wintel_ADM. So there is no traceability what he has done, who has done at what time. you will not be able to identify, since we do not have the logs. We do not have the visual logs, like who has logged into the server, what was the installation that he has done. Instead of patching, he might run some ransomware as well. Okay, so you cannot identify that thing. So this is called the shared personal. This is called the shared privileged account. The first is the elevated personal ID. The second is the shared accounts, wherein the entire team is known about the password. So this could be from the Unix team, networks team, Oracle team, the database team. Okay, so there could be n number of examples we see in a day-to-day example. Now, this is used for emergency, fire call, disaster recovery, privileged operations. Whatever the type of things you are doing, you would eventually require a shared ID. Then there are called application accounts. Okay, what are application accounts? Let's say, for an example, I have a script. Okay, now you can see that this is something custom health report using WMI. So what it is doing, it is basically authenticating to multiple servers. Okay, it is logging to multiple servers and check whether there are some services running or not. Okay, so we might be interested in doing a health checks of multiple server on a day-to-day basis, and check like whether the services are up and running, the task scheduler are up and running, whether there could be some should be some sort of auto switch jobs as well, which I want to see whether they are up and running. Just to identify the health status of all these things, I might require some script. Okay, now let's say my script is doing. Okay, this is what my script is doing. Okay, so it is basically logging into this 1,000 servers, check each and every server and checking the status for few things. Let's say there are some things like, first is like service. I think I lost it. Okay. Now let's say I have a script. Okay, what it does, it logs into thousands of servers and it checks few things. It checks the services, whether the services are up and running. It does the housekeeping. Housekeeping is just like deleting the temp files which are not needed, or maybe if my C drive is getting full, so it will basically try to archive those files and it will free up the space in the C drive. Checking patches, whether all patches on all these 1,000 servers are up to date or not. Okay, then task manager, or I would say OS health checks. OS health check is nothing but like memory, disk space, disk space. What else we have? We have our CPU utilization. So these are the very basic checks that it does. Okay. Now to log into this 1,000 servers, okay, the script needs to first log into this 1,000 servers and check these things. Okay, if you want to see something under a server, you should be able to access through that server. Okay, so the same needed for a script as well. Okay, a script will just run and it will try to authenticate to this 1,000 server and then it will check the attributes. Now, in order to do so, in the script, I would require some credentials. Okay, I would require credential. Let's say if it is logged into 1,000 server, I might require a domain domain account. I would say domain account. I would require username and the password for that. So that username and password I need to specify in this script so that it can log into this 1,000 server, check these attributes and provide with the result. Okay, this is the normal behavior of any script, that what is the intended purpose, it should serve that. Now, instead of doing it, okay, let's say my script is compromised. So let's say somebody has hacked my system and he can see there is a script lying over there and it has a password or username embedded in that or hard-coded in this script, and that particular username and password has rights to authenticate to thousands of server, and it basically checks this parameter. Okay, now this is a hacker has basically get hold of my script. He has seen my script, he has seen the hard coded credentials, and he can see that this is what the script is doing. Okay, now since it is doing, instead of checking the service status, it can simply disable that service. Instead of doing the housekeeping thing, he can simply simply stop the housekeeping activity on the script. Instead of doing checking the patches, it might uninstall those patches. Whatever the installed patches are there, he can uninstall those. Instead of canceling the CPU basic OS level checks, it will simply skip those checks. So basically someone who is an intruder or an hacker will try to disrupt the services, or maybe the normal functioning of these 1,000 servers. Now these 1,000 servers could be web servers, that could be mailing servers, that could be some sort of application servers. So if the servers are not running as appropriate because we are not able to perform the health checks, my complete services would be down, and this is termed as DDoS attack, wherein the complete behavior of my servers is compromised. And it's not just to servers, it could be anything. Let's say if I'm doing some sort of automation on my database, or maybe on my cloud, or maybe on my networks. So if this complete takeover takes place by some hacker or intruder, my services would no more be running as such. It would be completely down. Okay, so these accounts which are embedded in those scripts are termed as application accounts. If these application accounts are compromised, your entire system would be down as well, or maybe your entire infrastructure would be down as well, or whatever the activities, the automation activities you are running in your organization would be down as well. Okay, now what are the privileges, or what are the risks associated with the privileged account? They are most powerful accounts in the organization. Let's say if you're authenticating to 1,000 servers, that means your account you're using is very powerful, because that gives you access to 1,000 servers. Accesses sensitive information. So let's say if I'm doing a health checks for 1,000 servers, as I said, that servers could be application server, database server, mailing server, domain controllers. There could be a lot of critical assets that we are doing the monitoring for. Rarely changed, known to many. Now let's say this is my script, and the password I have specified in it, the username password I have specified in, I don't bother much about changing it very much, on a very frequent manner. The same goes for the shared account as well. So if I have a team of 10 people, we would be a bit reluctant in changing the password, and even if we are changing the password, that would be very weak. Okay, what happens? Let's say if I have for an example, I have a username, I have a password. Okay, my username is Ajay. Okay, and my password is Quati123. Okay, now just to tell you that whenever you set a password, there is a corresponding hash value. Okay, hash value is nothing but the encrypted value of your password. Let's say for Quati123, this is the hash value. Okay, this is the hash value. Now, as soon as I change the password, okay, the hash value would also be changed. Okay. Now, let's say if I log into this particular system with this username. Okay, I log into the system with Ajay as a username and the password. Okay, so the hash, okay, because the hash value sits in the system itself. Okay, there are some the weaker the password, okay, the weaker the password, the weaker would be the hash value. Okay, now let's say if I have a very guessable password like Quati@123, they would be, it is easily prone to be attacked. Okay, because we have like lots of attacks like man in the middle attack, brute force attack, wherein they try to exploit the weaker passwords and try to get hold of the hash value. Okay, so the hacker will only be looking after this hash value. Once he gets the hash value, he will simply do a PTH attack. PTH attack is something wherein which is called the pass the hash attack. Pass the hash attack is nothing but you are not knowing the password, but you have the hash value. Now let's say if I have a application accounts, he has basically get hold of the script. He has the application accounts that basically provides access to 1,000 servers. All he needs to do is just use this hash value, and he can authenticate to hundred thousands of servers. He can do whatever he wants to do, like running some ransomware, malware, steal some information, disrupt the service. Whatever he wants to do, he can do that. So only hash value is needed for him. So in order to do that, what happens in PAM, we used to put a very strong password. Even if we are doing any kind of accounts we are using here, like we are using elevated personal, shared accounts, application accounts. So we used to rotate a very complex password in PAM. The CyberArk will rotate a very complex password. Let's say if my password is qwerty@123 as of now, that is having a very weak hash value. But instead of that, if I make a very complex password like this, I'm just putting a very complex password, trying to be a very complex. Now you can see, so this is very complex, and it is something not into human readable form either. So even if I want to make it as my own password, I will not be able to do so, because it's not something very easy to guess. Okay. So firstly, it would have a complex hash value. Secondly, it is not prone to it is not prone to brute force attack, because in brute force attack they used to exploit with multiple guessable password values. Okay, so this is not a guessable thing. Okay, the guessable thing is like, I can have my name Ajay@123 as a password, Kwati@123 as a password. Okay, my hometown like Delhi@123 as a password. So these are like very guessable values, and this is the keystroke from the hackers. They used to impose like very guessable strings. So accordingly they can get the hash value with them, and accordingly they can authenticate with multiple assets. Okay, so once the hash value is available with them, okay, they can authenticate to all assets of your organizations. The ultimate attack is the golden ticket attack. Golden ticket attack is something wherein you have the entire control over the DC. DC is nothing but the domain controller. Once you have attained a domain controller access, that means you can do anything on the domain controller. You can create some backend accounts. You can delete the accounts which are there in the domain controller. You can make some changes in the domain controller. I mean, there could be n number of things. There are n number of possibilities you can do there. So now the first and foremost thing is like how the attack happens. Let's say if you have an organization, you are working in an organization, how the cyber attack would happen. I just tell you an insight about it. Guys, any questions still here? Any questions from anyone? Feel free to let me know. Any doubt, any questions? Is it clear till here, guys?
Hello, Ajay.
Yeah.
We can consider web application account as application account.
Web application account, basically, the accounts which are termed as application accounts, which are embedded in the script. So if you see here, so applications accounts are basically which are there in the scripts. Applications, Windows services batch. When you say web application accounts, web application account is something wherein you interactively make a login. Okay, if I were to log into this Google, for an example, if I were to, because you have some elevated rights available with you, and you are interacting with that particular application, whether it is a web-based application or a thick client application which is installed on your system or anything. So there is a difference between these two. Does that answer your query here? Hello. Does that answer your query, or still it's a confusion for you? Can I have the response here, please? I think we lost him. So I was coming to a point here, how the attack happens. Okay, what is the core of attack, and like how the attack begins in day-to-day life. So I will share you these documents, guys, after the session. So there are two ways of attacks. Okay, first is the insider attack. Let's say if I have some malicious intent, I'm working in an organization and I have some sort of malicious intent. I am an employee of an organization. I will do an insider attack. Okay, what I'll do, I will just log into my system. Okay, I will try to escalate my privileges. Okay, let's say for an example, guys, feel free to stop me anywhere whenever you feel difficult to understand. Okay, do not keep your questions limited to yourself. Okay, now what is insider attack? Let's say myself as an employee of a company XYZ. Okay, now what I have an ID called, I have a user ID which I use to log in the system with, called Ajay. Okay, this is my user ID. Okay, now as of now, my work is only kind of, I am just kind of into monitoring. For an example, I am doing a monitoring task. Monitoring is something that I use to log in some servers, and I need to check, what is the status of the servers, where there are some key services up and running or not. If there is any kind of flag that needs to be raised, I will do that. Okay, I'm not happy with my job. Okay, so what I can do, somebody gives me some sort of amount to check that particular information. I can share that information by logging into that server. I will capture a snapshot or something. I can share that, or maybe I can share him the user information on from that particular server I log into. Or maybe what I can do, somebody gives me some sort of executables, or maybe in case of executables could be anything. I mean, somebody gives me some sort of executables to be, to be executed on some sort particular servers. I do that. Okay, willingly. I get some amount. I do that. So what happens? This will eventually disrupt the business of my organization, because I have executed something malicious on the infrastructure. Okay. Now, in order to do so, how I will do that particular thing? Okay. First and foremost, I have a normal user ID called Ajay. I need to elevate my privileges. So let's say if I'm a domain user, I will try to elevate myself, maybe kind of try to get domain RDP access, so I can access multiple servers of my organization. Then I will try to elevate to domain admin. Then further I will try to elevate to enterprise admin. So this is just like, I will keep on elevating my access to multiple levels or multiple layers, so I can basically access any infrastructure of my organization. So this is the footprints of mine that I will basically transfer while doing some sort of malicious thing on the organization. So, or directly I can also execute a few things which is not supposed to be done as a part of my roles and duties. Somebody gives me some sort of applications or maybe some sort of ransomware executables. I just put it in the server. It will just try to track the path of networks, how exactly the servers are deployed, what are the key web servers, where exactly the domain controllers are hosted, what are the mailing servers, whatever the key application servers in my organizations. If there are any kind of checks, like we have some sort of vulnerability scanner services are there, antivirus scanner services are there, I will try to stop them on the key servers. So there could be n number of things to disrupt the business. This is called the insider attack, where the insider is compromised and he is willingly trying to bring in the malicious stuff into the infrastructure. This is called the insider attack. So the external attack or external threats are something wherein you can unwillingly gets compromised. So let's say you get an email. This is called phishing attack. You all are aware, because we are working in an IT world. We used to get a kinds of emailers, mass mailers from our organization that do not click on any link without knowing the source of it. Okay. So there could be some phishing email posted on your mailbox, saying this is kind of urgent issue. You need to fill up this form or something. You just will unwillingly click on that particular link, and some sort of executable gets downloaded. Now, once that executable gets downloaded on the system, what happens? Immediately, they will not do anything at all. I mean, immediately your business will not be disrupted. Anything will not be done at all. There is something called penetration. First of all, he will try to penetrate your network. Okay, he will try to penetrate into your environment. What exactly are the key landscapes are there? How exactly the what exactly the network infrastructure that is deployed? What are the different firewalls are there? What is the network part to different key assets like domain controllers, mailing servers, or maybe other critical assets of your organization? Okay, then they will perform reconnaissance. Okay, reconnaissance is something, maybe they can create some sort of different shadow id. Okay, they can basically create one more id wherein they can use it as a shield to go ahead on your infrastructure. Then they will move laterally in the sense they will keep on escalating themselves, and they will move different ways. Like they will understand the key lay of the land, how exactly the things are there in your organization. Once they're aware about each and everything, they have a blueprint of your organization, how the different key assets are deployed. They will disrupt the business. Okay, now they are known that this is the domain controller, this is the mailing server, this is the antivirus application server, this is the vulnerability management server, this is the scanner services that they are there, this is the endpoint security services are there. They will try to simply shut down all of them just to avoid any kind of checks to be done on systems. They will simply stop all of them. Then they will disrupt the business. Disrupt the business is nothing but stopping the services, stopping running some sort of ransomware, encrypting the entire data, stealing the information of your key customers. So this is something called disrupting the business. Once the entire thing is done, they will exfiltrate data. Exfiltrate data in the sense that they will simply import the data whatever is hosted in your environment to themselves. So they can get to know that what is there inside your organization. If there are important stuff like key deals are there, some mission critical customer data is there, that would be eventually compromised. So here exactly what is happening, we do not have any shield to safeguard the for the intruder or attacker to get inside the network. We do not have any shield. Once we have CyberArk in place, okay, there is some sort of shield is over here. So as of now, it looks very weird that how CyberArk can prevent these kinds of attack. Okay, so first and foremost is the penetration. We need to stop the penetration. How the penetration happens? Okay, now let's say I have logged into my laptop. Now I want to get into this particular server. This is particular server. This is an AD server. To get into this AD server, I need to have the credentials. Okay, otherwise I will not be able to get into this AD server at all. Okay, so in the case of shared IDs, you might have seen that in the we have discussed in the shared IDs, we have a common password known to many people. If this password is compromised, let's say if there are 10 people in the team and the password is known to a 11th person or a 12th person, he would also have access to all the assets that is accessible by this team of 10 people. The same happens in the organization as well. Let's say if a Wintel team is working on this domain controller, they are only aware about the password, username and password of this domain controller. Now 11th person is also having access to this. 11th person is also knowing about the password of this domain controller. He would also be able to get inside that particular domain controller. This is the weakness of a shared account. Okay. Now what happens when CyberArk comes into the picture? It won't let you connect through the password. Okay, so there are two things. So just coming, somebody asked about the web application part. I will just try to figure out the difference between the interactive access and non-interactive access. So interactive access is something wherein you are personally when you are personally punching username and password, if I were to log into the Gmail, it will prompt me to specify my username and the password. That means it's a kind of interactive authentication. Okay, I have the password string available to me. I have the username available with me. I am personally punching in. Non-interactive access is something that password is not known to me. That means I do not have the password string available. I will simply click on connect, discussing about the interactive access and non-interactive access. So interactive access wherein you personally punching your username and password. What is non-interactive access? Non-interactive access when the password is not known to you or it is not shown to you. So let's say if I were to connect to this particular server, for an example, I have this server PWA. Okay, this is up anyways. Okay, let me just open it up. I will explain you everything about it, how to install it, what are the prerequisites, everything I will explain you. But I'm just showing you that how what are the things that you can. Now this is the GUI of CyberArk, or I should say the web-based GUI of CyberArk. Let it appear. Yeah. So let's say if I were to connect to a server. Okay. Let me just open it up. I want to connect to this server. This is the address of this server. Okay, I want to connect to this particular server. I will simply click on connect. It will take me to that server without knowing the password of this particular account. This is the account which is created in the server, and I want to connect to this server through this account. Okay, I will simply click on connect. It will take me to the server. Whatever the activities I'm doing, it will be thoroughly recorded as well. It would have the visual logs. It will have the audit logs. It would have the keystroke logs. So here I do not need to know the password. This is something I'm doing in an uninteractive way, because password string, or I'm not physically punching the username and password. It will be the CyberArk which will punch in the username and password on this target machine, not me. So here, even even if I have access to this server through CyberArk, my password is not known to me. Even if I try to willingly share the password of this particular thing, I will not be able to do so, because the upper two options, basically these are basically that will show you the password of this account, would be grayed out for me. I'm sharing a very normal scenario. For an end user, the show and copy option would be grayed out, and this connect option would be enabled. So as of now, this environment is not fully built. I will try to onboard some account and I will show you how does it work. So the basic key idea is that I have introduced CyberArk in between. Okay, I have introduced CyberArk layer in between. So whenever I want to access anything, maybe the database or maybe the server, the Unix server, Wintel server, or maybe any kind of firewall devices, any kind of websites, I will simply authenticate to CyberArk first of all. From CyberArk, I will click on connect. Then CyberArk will connect me to the target machine. It is not me who is knowing the password. It is with the CyberArk which would be injecting the credentials on the target system. So here we are cancelling these things. Credential theft, because the password is not known to us. Reconnaissance, because we are not having the credentials, we will not be able to create any kind of dummy IDs or shadow IDs on the system. Lateral movement, since we are connecting everything from CyberArk, only the legit access would be given to the from the CyberArk. If I'm a Wintel admin, I would only be having access to the Windows servers. If I'm a Unix admin, I would only have the access to the Unix servers. So there is SODs you can basically maintain from the CyberArk in place. Privilege escalation, there is no point in doing that privilege escalation at all, because okay, once I'm access for getting into a server, let's say this is a domain controller for an example. Okay, I am getting into the domain controller. Now after reaching to a domain controller, I want to create some sort of privilege escalation. What I'll do, let's say if this particular ID is having a domain RDP access. I want to elevate it the domain admin access. I will not be able to do that because there are certain suits in CyberArk, which is like, let's say, privileged thread analytics. So it will not let me create any kind of additional IDs on the domain controller. It will immediately terminate my session. It will immediately lock down my access, and it will just just put me down, or maybe shut down my access right away. So there is no backdoor entry I could create on any target machine at all because of this PTA. PTA is a kind of package from the CyberArk itself through which you can do that. So all of these things that we have discussed, which could be because of the insider threat or an external threat, are being safeguarded by the CyberArk. So now the second thing is that we were discussing about PTH attack. Okay, PTH attack is something wherein you have the weaker passwords. So what happens as soon as I'm done with an activity? Let's say if I've connected to this Windows account, for example, I have connected to this Windows account. Okay, as of now, you can see the password is sitting in the PAM or CyberArk. Let me just show you. This is the password of this. Okay, as soon as I'm done with the session, okay, I have connected to this. I have logged off from this particular server. I'm done with my work. The password would immediately be rotated by CyberArk. Okay, so there will not be kind of stale hashes or orphan hashes. Whenever you log into a server, there are some hash values that resides in it even after you log out. So if somebody get hold of that hash value, your system could be compromised because he is having the hash value to authenticate to that server. What CyberArk does, immediately once your session gets over, it will rotate the password. The complex your password would be, the complex would be your hash value. So let's say if we are in the conventional way, we are using quat@123, or maybe or something like QAZ WSX@123, that are very known password, or maybe your company name @123, or something very guessable password you are making use of. So that would not be the case with CyberArk. It would be very complex password that CyberArk would be generating. That just the example I have shown you. So accordingly, the corresponding hash value would also be very complex. It will not be a feasible task for an attacker to break that particular hash value. And on top of it, it will not be static hash value. It will keep on changing the hash value because every time you initiate a session, the password would be rotated by CyberArk. So for any PAM solution, okay, be it CyberArk, Beyond Trust, HashiCorp, any PAM solution, there are two key objectives. First is the session management. Okay, session management is the ability to connect any target machine. Okay, when I say any, that means I just show you here. Okay, now you can see there are a lot of details here. There is SSH, RDP, PuTTY, RP. There is something called Telnet, Toad, SQL Plus, vSphere, AS400, AS390, SQL Management Server Studio, PTA, Azure Portal, vSphere Web, SQL Server Management Studio. So these are called the target servers. Oh, sorry, target assets. So whatever you want to connect, whether it is on-prem application like database applications, or maybe anything hosted on cloud like Azure, AWS, GCP, Google Cloud Platform, this thing, IBM Cloud Platform, whatever the things which are hosted on the cloud, your PAM solution should be capable of connecting to anything like that. Okay, that is called a session management, that you have the capability to connect to any target machine irrespective of what nature of the target machine. So this is called session management. Session management is nothing but the capability of a PAM solution to connect as well as injecting credentials to them. Okay, this is called the session management. So whatever the target machine you have, or maybe the target assets you want to access through PAM, you can do so. Then second is the password management. As I told you, the hash thing, so it should be capable of rotating the password of any target system. Okay, so here you can see in PAM, or PAM I always refer because PAM is the preferred term. It is PAM is something a kind of wider uh, term that is used for all privileged access management. So once you are able to understand the PAM terminology or the PAM controls, you would be the studying of other PAM tools like Beyond Trust or HashiCorp would just be comparative study, because you would know the known principles of any PAM tool, that the session management, password management, the application onboarding, you would be knowing about everything. So the key principles remain the same. The only thing is the change in the GUI. Like instead of doing it from the PVW, they might have some other tools. In Thycotics, it could be a different tool to do that. But the goal objective remains the same for any PAM. The use cases remains the same for any PAM tool, be it CyberArk, Beyond Trust, HashiCorp, anything Thycotics, it remains the same. Okay, but the use cases that CyberArk performs is the maximum, because it has been a top PAM tool since last 10 years as per the Gartner rating, because there are a lot of use cases and user ease, and the kind of global footprint that CyberArk makes is not the same with other PAM tools as well. So it has been a global leader since last 7 years because of lots of features that CyberArk provides. Okay, in other tools you might not get all the features that CyberArk provides, but they are cheaper as compared to CyberArk. But if you see the market share of CyberArk, it is the maximum. All the BFSI domain, like the pharmaceutical domains, are opting the CyberArk only. Now you can see there are a lot of platform here. Platforms are nothing but the ability of a CyberArk to rotate the password. So whatever you onboard in CyberArk is capable of rotating the password for it. Whatever the things, even some things are not available here. There is something called marketplace. Marketplace is basically an offering from CyberArk from which you can check, like if something is not appearing in your list over here, you can import it from the marketplace. So we will discuss this in the later phase of time, but marketplace is something, an open platform for CyberArk customers to import anything from that particular. So this is all suits of PAM. Okay, I will explain you more in detail about it. So we have seen that there are types of privileged accounts, how the attack happens, what are the key objectives of a PAM solution, like session management and password management. Okay, now we will see that what are the challenges there. Okay, like if there are attack happens in your organization, there could be some sort of financial losses, brand damage, business continuity damage, regulatory penalties. You might have seen there are audit that comes into your organization, like PwC, or maybe some KPMG audit, like there. If they see, like the PAM solution is not deployed as per the norms, there could be some hefty penalties that they will impose on your organization. So it's a kind of mandate for any organization who's having who are running their businesses in the Europe, or maybe America, or maybe nowadays in India as well. So they have some norms wherein they have to implement a PAM solution for sure. If they're not abiding to that particular thing, there could be hefty penalties imposed on them. So these are the day-to-day news that we used to see, that that the compromise has happened on some organizations. Some, you might have heard about a couple of months back, there were some sort of ransomware, WannaCry, Bad Rabbit, that was they were asking of a hefty ransom in the name of cryptocurrency as well. So you cannot trace out that who has done what, because the cryptocurrency is something wherein you cannot trace the person who is receiving that particular amount. So that is a real time challenge when it comes to compromising the credentials, and your attack happens in the organizations. You do not have anything rather than paying the hefty ransom to them, because anyways you need to resume your businesses as soon as possible. You cannot wait for that particular time period to someone decrypt your data again and run that up. Or maybe you will not be able to shut down your assets as well, just to avoid that kind of attacks. The business must go on. So that is the reason that just to avoid this kind of chances, we go with the CyberArk deployment or any PAM tool deployment. So how does the CyberArk basically help us to help in safeguarding all the privileged credentials, and what are the different components of CyberArk? So first and foremost is the enterprise password vault. Okay. Now, as I tell you that there are three types of privileged accounts. The first is the personal privileged account, then there is a shared privileged account, and the third is application privileged account. So, what is the purpose of CyberArk? How CyberArk basically, gets help us in terms of safeguarding these credentials? So, it has different components to do its dedicated task. Okay, so we'll start with the enterprise password vault. Okay, now enterprise password is basically the storage of CyberArk. It's a core component of CyberArk wherein everything sits. So if I'm integrating 1,000 devices, maybe if I'm basically integrating 1,000 Windows server, hundreds of Unix servers, hundreds of database servers, thousands of websites, web pages. Let's say if I have a corporate LinkedIn page or a Facebook page or an Instagram page of my organization, I want to publish few things on a weekly basis. So that has to be filtered, in such a way that only the legitimate content should flow. Let's say if I want to publish my quarter business, business updates on the LinkedIn. So for that, I expect that only the legitimate person should access the LinkedIn corporate LinkedIn page, and he should only publish the legitimate content. I do not want anyone can access my corporate LinkedIn page, and I can put anything of his choice as because it will damage my brand. It will lead to brand damage of my organization. So that kind of thing you can easily access through PAM. You need not to know the password of the corporate LinkedIn page. It would be the PAM which would be holding the credentials for your LinkedIn page. So where exactly it will store? It will store in the enterprise password vault, EPV, or just the vault. So any credentials which are there in your organization, that would eventually be sitting in the vault. Vault is the central repository or the most secure component of CyberArk. It's a Windows server, and it has layers of security. I will explain you what are the different layers of security in the vault, how exactly it safeguards all your credentials, and what are the different encryption happens once the password sits in the vault. Then comes Central Policy Manager. Policy Manager, or just CPM, is basically again an integral part of PAM which performs the password management. So whenever the password needs to be rotated, it is done through Central Policy Manager. Let me show you something here. So CPM or Central Policy Manager basically is the interface between the target machines and the vault. Now let's say if I have basically onboarded these particular devices, Unix servers, Oracle servers. Okay, I have onboarded desktop servers as well. I mean, I have the username and password which is sitting in the vault, and I have CPM in between. So what CPM does, CPM will verify the password, whatever the password is there in the vault. It will just try to verify. Let's say if I have root account onboarded in CyberArk, okay, so it will check whether the password of root which is created in this Unix server A is same as what password it has in the vault. It will just try to validate or verify each and every password. So just in case if the password is not same, it will flag an error that the password is incorrect. So it's a kind of interface between the target machines you integrate with CyberArk as well as the vault. It will keep on changing the password as well. Now, let's say if there is a 30 days of password policy I have implemented. For in every 30 days, the password would be rotated. So once the 30-day period comes up, it will change the password in a very complex manner, and it will update the new password in the vault. This is how the CPM works. So there are three things it performs: change password, verify password, and reconcile password. I will explain you the reconcile one in the later stage because otherwise it would be a bit confusing as of now. So basic thing is verify and change, it performs. Then comes password vault web access. Password web access is nothing but an interface of CyberArk, or I would say, this thing that we have just discussed. This is the password vault web access. This is simply a URL, or I should say dashboard, wherein the users would be able to, do their activities. Like they would be able to see the accounts that they own, they would be able to connect to the target machines, they would be able to retrieve the reports as well. The administrators can also do some admin level jobs as well. So we will see more in details once we approach this topic, PVW. It's a very wide topic. I will tell you what are the different things that you can do with the PVW. Then come privileged session management, or PSM. Okay, now we have seen here just try to understand this thing and feel free to stop me if you're not able to do so. Okay, this is very important. How the escalation happens or how the attack happens. Okay, let me just try to. Okay, I will try to put it in a very simple way. Let's say I have a workstation. I think the spelling is. Okay. Let's say I have a workstation, or I would say my company laptop is there. I have just entered my ODC. I have a workstation or maybe a laptop. I will just plug in into the LAN cable and I want to access some Windows server. Okay. I will simply open up MSTSC. This thing, I will just open up MSTSC. MCST. Okay, I'm unable to recall that name. MSTSC, yeah. Okay, it will come up. I will try to put the IP of that server or maybe the host name of that server, and I will click connect. So it will basically ask me the username and password. Okay, so why this particular window come up once I kept the username and password? That means I have the connectivity to that target system. Okay, I have from my workstation to that target system the TCP 3389, that is the RDP port, is open. Okay, so let's say if the password is compromised for that particular target machine, then that means anyone can get into the target machine with the credentials. Okay, so this is a normal scenario. Okay, or I would say a kind of vulnerable scenario wherein you have a direct connectivity to the target system. That should not be the case. What happens once you introduce PAM? So from your workstation, okay, you will first reach to the PSM. Okay, from the PSM, every connectivity is there. So from my workstation, I will not have direct connectivity to any of the target system. Let's say on a daily basis, I access thousands of target systems, target systems in the sense I could have a mix and match between Unix server, Windows server, database server, websites, everything from my workstation. I used to do that. But when CyberArk comes in place, every session happens from the PSM. PSM is nothing but a jump server. So from my workstation, I will first reach out to this jump server. From this jump server, the connectivity is established. So even if my workstation is compromised, let's say if my username and password, the AD ID of mine is compromised, I will not be able to exploit any of the target system, because any target system I want to access is through the PVW, so through the CyberArk. First and foremost, some hacker, if somebody has got access to my username and ID or password, I would say, he will not be able to log into the PVW or CyberArk. Reason being, CyberArk is always protected by two-factor authentication. So once you provide username and password, you would be prompted for the radius challenge, or you would be prompted for an OTP, you would be prompted to acknowledge a call, something like that. There could be n number of things that you can integrate in CyberArk. So accordingly, perimeter compromise would not happens once you put the PSM in place. Let me show you how does it look like. I will show you the practical things tomorrow. I just need to set a few things, so that will basically clarify all your doubts as well. And then we will basically go ahead with the step-by-step lab thing, and I will explain you the prerequisites, what are the different use cases. So that will clarify all your doubts and queries. Okay. Now what happens? Let's say if I am an IT person, okay, I want to access some sort of Unix server, Windows server, or maybe I am a network guy who used to access this routers and switches. I will simply click on connect button here. As I own you. Okay, now let's say if I want to connect to the server, I am a Wintel guy. I will simply click on this connect button. Once I click on connect, it will take me to the PSM. Okay, the session will reach out to the PSM. Okay, PSM is nothing but a jump server of CyberArk. Okay, so from my workstation to this target system, there is no connectivity at all. If I want to access this Windows server directly using MSTSC, I do not have the 3389 connectivity enabled. It will take me to the PSM first of all. It will retrieve the credentials of the account through which I want to connect to this Windows server, and it will inject the credentials into this Windows server. Okay, my session would be established. Whatever I'm doing, that would be thoroughly recorded by this PSM. If I'm doing some sort of changes in the server, that would be recorded. It would have the visual recordings in CyberArk. It would have the audit logs in the CyberArk. It would have the keystroke logins in the CyberArk. So there is no possibility that I can do any kind of mischievous activity on the target machine at all. Okay. Also, it then returns the recordings to the vault. So whatever the recording happens to for my session, it eventually restores the recording to the vault. So in some case, let's say there is some audit comes, they want to review the recording that what I have done before like 7 months or 8 months or an year ago, they can simply play back the recording entirely. If I done anything mischievous, I would be tracked. So this is the part. This is the this is the basically the function of the PSM. So PSM has a counterpart called PSMP. Okay, now if you might have worked as a Unix admin or worked as a Linux admin, you might have seen that we are very much habituated in terms of using the PuTTY. Okay, we do not want to authenticate to any. We are not much comfortable with the GUI. Rather, we are much comfortable with the PuTTY. So through that PSMP, you can simply initiate a PuTTY session, and that would be recorded as well. I will show you how does it look like and what are the benefits of using PuTTY, and how you can basically connect to multiple target SSH based devices with the help of it. Guys, feel free to stop me if any questions are there, any queries are there. Do not hesitate. Then comes application identity management. So as we have discussed in the initial part of our discussion, that whatever the hard-coded credentials which are there in the scripts, okay, let's say if I have a script, okay, there is some script. Let me just come up over here. Let's say if I have a system custom health check script, okay, now I need to have some credentials to do that work. Okay, so whatever the hard-coded credentials in the script, they are basically safeguarded by CyberArk as well. Okay, so rather than specifying the hard-coded credentials in the script, what I'll do, I will specify a function call. Now let's say if my script wants to log into a server to check the status of that server services. If the 5 services, let's say there are 5 services my script used to check, in order to do so, it will use to authenticate to those server, and it will check the status of those 5 services. Okay, now thus the credentials for those for that server, it's basically specified in the script. Now when application identity management comes into the picture, what we will do, we will replace the hard-coded credential with the function call. So the script will tell CyberArk that now I want the credentials to be given to me because I'm in process of getting the health checks done. So kindly provide me the credential. So the CyberArk will provide it the username and password. A script can do its job. Once the job is done, the password would be rotated again by the CyberArk. So this is the purpose of application identity management, to replace the hard-coded credentials in the scripts. The scripts would not be having any kind of hard-coded credentials. It would be then it is the purpose of it is the work of application identity management by CyberArk to replace any hard-coded credentials. Then comes disaster recovery vault. So disaster recovery vault is just a mirror image of your enterprise password vault. In a rare scenario, if your vault goes down, ideally it is very rare, but just in case if your data center entirely goes down, so definitely your vault would also go down. In that case, there is an automatic failover. Let's say if middle of the night something happens. For an example, we are having some sort of data centers in Ukraine. And Ukraine, as you're aware, there is some sort of war zone as of now. So let's say if your entire data center got shut down, okay, it is some sort of catastrophic thing happens to your data center, your entire data center is blasted or something happens. So how your business would be restored? How you would be running your business as usual without any issue? So you would be having some sort of data centers somewhere in the geographical region of the world, and you will have a disaster recovery vault hosted over there. So anything on your production data center goes wrong, immediately that failover happens to the DR site. There will not be any kind of business impact that is likely to occur because you have the DR vault already running. It is replicating each and every bit of your data from your production vault to the DR vault. Event notification engine is something. It is not a component, but it is a kind of service that CyberArk runs. So whatever the activities are coming in, let's say if the DR happens, if your production site is down, you would be notified on your SMTP, you would be notified on your Outlook that so and so thing has happened, and there is some sort of intervention needed from your end. If some report is generated, it is more of like a mailing service from CyberArk. Then comes on-demand privilege manager. So this is more of like a segregation of duties as well. If you have L1, L2, L3 resources in your team, or it is primarily a Unix component. So if you have L1, L2, and L3 resources in your team, you do not want an L1 to execute any kind of L2 command, or you do not want an L2 to execute an L3 level command. You can simply get it whitelisted and blacklisted on the basis of a group and people. So the group 1 people would be entitled to execute only the legitimate commands. The group 2 people would also only be entitled to log in only legitimate commands. Okay, they will not be able to elevate their access. So let's say if a L2 person needs to add someone in the sudoers group. Sudoers group is just like a local administrator group we have in Windows. We have sudoers group in Unix, wherein you can provide the admin level privileges. So that L2 person will not be able to do that task because you have blacklisted that command for him, or maybe you have blacklisted the path for him. He will not be able to perform that sort of operation. So this is the on-demand privilege manager. So these are all the components